The massive crystal dome of the Galactic Council stretched high above the assembly floor. 47 different alien species sat in their designated sections, their various forms creating a rainbow of colors and shapes. Some breathed oxygen. Like humans, others required special atmosphere suits, and a few floated in tanks of liquid methane. Admiral Dongwu stood perfectly still at the center of the chamber. His dark blue uniform bore the simple Earth symbol, a blue circle representing his home planet. Next to him, Ambassador Nari adjusted her translator device. Both humans looked calm, but inside they felt the weight of this moment. 3 years of growing tension had led to this day. What started as small complaints had grown into serious threats. The Council wanted control over humanity, and they were not being subtle about it anymore. Captain Jin Ho sat in the human observer section, his hand resting on a small communication device. The device connected directly to Earth through quantum channels. One signal from him could change everything. Chancellor Vextal of the Zephyrian Empire rose from his floating platform. His silver skin gleamed under the chamber lights, and his forearms moved in practiced gestures. The Zephyrians had led the Council for over 200 years. They were used to getting their way. "The matter before us today is simple," Vextal said. His voice carried through the chamber's translation system, reaching every species in their own language. "Humanity has grown too fast and too strong. They colonize worlds without permission. They develop weapons without sharing the designs. They act like they own space itself." Murmurs of agreement came from several alien sections. The Corethians clicked their claws in approval. The Meridians flashed their bioluminescent patches in synchronized patterns. Even some of the smaller species nodded their various heads. Dongwu watched it all without expression. He had expected this reaction. Humans had indeed been successful in space. In just 50 years since first contact, they had built over 300 colonies. Human ships traveled faster than most alien vessels. Human technology solved problems that had stumped other species for centuries. But success, it seemed, made enemies. Vextal continued his speech. "The Council has been patient. We offered partnerships. We suggested joint ventures. We even allowed humans to establish their own shipping routes. But patience has limits." The Chancellor's voice grew harder. "Today, humanity will accept the following terms, or face the consequences." He activated a holographic display that filled the center of the chamber. The terms appeared in every major galactic language, including human English. First, all human. Colonies must accept council oversight, no more independent settlements. Every world must have a council representative with veto power over major decisions. Nari's jaw tightened, but she remained silent. Second, humanity must share all technological developments with the council within 1 standard month of discovery. No exceptions. No delays. No classified research. Dongwu's hand moved slightly toward his communication device, then stopped. Third, human population growth must be limited to levels approved by the Council. No species should control more than 15% of inhabited worlds. A few humans in the observer section shifted uncomfortably. Earth alone had over 9 billion people, and the colonies were growing fast. Fourth, all human military vessels must be registered with Council forces and submit to regular inspections. No ship larger than a cruiser may be built without Council approval. Jin Ho quietly pressed a button on his device. Far away on Earth, computers received a simple code, Protocol 7. Vextal's final point came with a dramatic pause. "And fifth, humanity will pay reparations for their aggressive expansion, 500 billion Council credits, paid over 10 years. The chamber fell silent. Even the usual background noises of different life support systems seemed to quiet down. Nari stood slowly. Her movement was graceful and deliberate. Every alien eye in the chamber focused on her. "The United Earth Coalition has heard your terms," she said. Her voice was clear and steady. "We understand exactly what you are demanding." She paused, looking around the chamber at all the alien faces watching her. "Our answer is no." The chamber erupted. Aliens made sounds of shock, anger, and disbelief. Some species shouted in their own languages. Others made gestures that their translators identified as extremely rude. Vextal's silver skin darkened with rage. "You refuse? Do you understand what this means? The entire galaxy will turn against you." Nari smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who had expected this moment and prepared for it. Chancellor Vextal, you seem to think we need your permission to exist. You believe we depend on your approval to survive. You assume we will crawl back and beg when you threaten us. She turned to address the entire chamber. You are wrong about all of those things. Dongwu stepped forward. The United Earth Coalition formally withdraws from all council treaties. We cancel all trade agreements. We end all mutual defense pacts. We reject all council authority over human space. The alien delegates looked confused. This was not how species usually reacted to council ultimatums. Most begged for mercy or tried to negotiate better terms. Nari continued. Furthermore, all human citizens are ordered to leave council space within 6 months. All human installations will be dismantled. All human technology will be removed or destroyed. Jinho received a reply to his earlier signal. He nodded to the Admiral. The evacuation has already begun, Dongwu announced. Our people are coming. Home! Vextal's 4 arms waved frantically. You cannot do this! The economic disruption alone will be your problem, not ours. Nari interrupted. You wanted us gone. We are granting your wish. She gathered her papers and prepared to leave. There is an old human saying, Chancellor, be careful what you wish for. You might get it. The human delegation walked toward the exit. Their footsteps echoed in the suddenly quiet chamber. At the doorway, Dongwu turned back one last time. Humanity walked away from the table. Let us see how well you manage without us. The doors closed behind them with a soft click. In the chamber, 47 alien species sat in stunned silence. They had expected submission. They had expected negotiation. They had expected fear. They had not expected humanity to simply leave. The council had won, they told themselves. They had shown the upstart humans their place. They had preserved the natural order of the galaxy. It would take them months to realize their victory was actually the beginning of their doom. Outside the chamber, human ships were already leaving Nexus Prime. The exodus had begun. And with it, the galaxy would learn exactly how much they had depended on the species they had just driven away. Commander Heiwan stood on the bridge of the massive carrier ship New Seoul. Through the wide windows, she could see dozens of human ships moving in perfect formation. Each ship carried thousands of people and their belongings. This was the largest movement of humans in history, and she was in charge of making sure everyone got home safely. 6 months had passed since the council meeting. 6 months since humanity had walked away from the negotiating table. Now the real work began. Status report, Heiwan said to her crew. Lieutenant So Young looked up from her console. Sector 7 evacuation is 90% complete. The last. Transport ships are loading now. Sector 12 reports all civilian populations have been moved, added Lieutenant Minho. The industrial teams are starting to dismantle the factories. Heiwan nodded. Everything was going according to plan. Protocol 7 was not just about leaving council space, it was about leaving nothing behind that the aliens could use. On the planet below, Engineer Taemin supervised the removal of a massive atmospheric processor. The machine was the size of a city block and had taken 5 years to build. It turned the planet's poisonous air into something humans could breathe. Now, his teams were taking it apart piece by piece. Careful with the quantum coils, Taemin called to his workers. Those took 6 months to calibrate. The aliens will never figure out how to rebuild them. His assistant, Jun Seo, wiped sweat from his forehead. Sir, this seems like a waste. These machines help people. Why destroy them? Taemin paused in his work. Because the council wanted to control us. They wanted our technology without earning it. They wanted our help without respecting us. If they cannot have us as equals, they get nothing at all. The atmospheric processor came apart in sections. Each piece was loaded onto transport ships. The most important parts would go back to human space. The rest would be destroyed rather than left behind. Similar scenes played out across hundreds of worlds. Dr. Boram worked frantically in her laboratory on the research station orbiting Kepler 442. She had spent 10 years developing new genetic therapies here. Her work had saved millions of alien lives from diseases that had plagued them for centuries. Now she was erasing every trace of her research. Upload complete, her assistant Young-hee announced. All data has been transferred to the secure servers on Earth. Boram typed commands into her computer. One by one, the laboratory's databases went dark. Years of medical breakthroughs disappeared from the galactic data networks. The aliens would have to start over from nothing. "Doctor, are you sure about this?" Young He asked. "The Meridians still have the plague outbreak in the Vegas system. Without our antiviral programs, thousands might die." Boram's hands paused over the keyboard. She thought about all the alien children her medicines had saved. Then she thought about the Council's ultimatum, the demand for submission, the threat of isolation. "The Council made their choice," she said quietly. "They decided they did not want our help anymore. We are simply giving them what they asked for." The final database went dark. Across the galaxy, human communication networks went silent one by one. The quantum relay stations that had connected distant sectors for the first time in galactic history shut down. Trade routes that had operated for decades suddenly had no way to coordinate shipments. Captain Kyung-ho commanded the cargo ship Iron Mountain. His vessel was one of the last to leave Council space. Behind him, a convoy of 50 ships carried the final group of human evacuees. "Sir, we are receiving emergency calls from 17 different species," his communications officer reported. "They are asking us to maintain the relay stations until they can find replacements." Kyung-ho looked at the tactical display. His ships were already past the point of no return. They had crossed into the empty space beyond the galactic rim. "Send them our standard response," he ordered. The response was simple and had been approved by Earth Command months ago. "All human infrastructure will be removed as scheduled. The United Earth Coalition wishes you success in your future endeavors." On the bridge, engineer Dal Ho monitored the destruction of the last quantum relay. The machine had cost 50 billion credits to build and had taken 3 years to install. Now it was being systematically destroyed by automated charges. "The aliens will never be able to rebuild this," Dal Ho said to his assistant. "The quantum crystalline matrix alone requires 17 different rare elements. Most species do not even know those elements exist." The relay station exploded in a brilliant flash of light. With it died the communication network that had connected the entire galaxy. Back on the New Sol, Commander Hae-won received reports from all sectors. The evacuation was nearly complete. Over 2 million humans had been moved from Council space. Thousands of installations had been dismantled. Hundreds of technology centers had been emptied. "Commander, we are getting angry messages from the Zephyrian Chancellor," Lieutenant So Young reported. "He says we are violating galactic law by removing infrastructure that other species depend on." Hae-won almost smiled. "Remind the Chancellor that we are no longer bound by galactic law. We withdrew from all treaties, remember?" She walked to the main display screen. It showed the current positions of all human ships. They were spread across dozens of star systems, all moving steadily toward the galactic rim. "Also remind him that the infrastructure belongs to us. We built it. We paid for it. We maintained it. If the Council wanted to keep it, they should have treated us better." On the planet Carthage 7, the last human mining operation prepared to shut down. Supervisor Wu Jin had spent 15 years extracting rare metals from the planet's core. His techniques had increased mining efficiency by 400%. Now he was collapsing the mine shafts and flooding the tunnels. "The Carthaginians are offering us triple wages to stay," his foreman reported. Wu Jin shook his head. "Orders are orders. Every human leaves. Every piece of human equipment goes with us. Nothing stays behind." The mining complex that had employed 50,000 aliens disappeared into rubble. The extraction equipment that had revolutionized galactic mining was loaded onto ships bound for human space. As the Iron Mountain and its convoy reached the edge of known space, Captain Kyung-ho prepared to send humanity's final message to the galaxy they were leaving behind. "Open all frequencies," he ordered. "Frequencies open, sir." Kyung-ho spoke slowly and clearly, knowing his words would be recorded and remembered. "To all species of the Galactic Council, humanity came to your galaxy in peace. We offered friendship. We shared our knowledge. We asked only for respect and equality in return." He paused, looking back at the lights of civilization growing dim behind them. "You demanded our submission instead. You chose to see us as a threat rather than an ally. You decided you could take what you wanted and discard the rest. The last human ship crossed into the void beyond the galactic rim. We are giving you exactly what you asked for. A galaxy without human interference. A galaxy where you can make your own choices without our input. We hope you enjoy what you have chosen. Ta-da! Transmission ended. The galaxy fell silent. Behind them, they left empty space stations and abandoned colonies. They left dark communication relays and silent mining operations. They left nothing that could help the aliens who had rejected them. The evacuation was complete. Humanity had gone home. Now the galaxy would learn what life was like without them. 3 years had passed since the last human ship disappeared beyond the galactic rim. Dr. Yunji stood nervously in front of the council emergency session, her datapad trembling in her hands. As the galaxy's chief economist, she had to deliver news that no one wanted to hear. The Grand Council chamber looked different now. Many seats sat empty. Several smaller species had stopped sending representatives months ago. They could no longer afford the travel costs without human shipping networks. Chancellor Vextal looked older than his species normally aged. His silver skin had dulled to a gray color, and his 4 arms moved with less confidence than before. The past 3 years had not been kind to anyone. Members of the council, Dr. Yunji began, her voice echoing in the half-empty chamber. I must report on the current state of galactic trade and economics. She activated the holographic display. Numbers and charts filled the air above the assembly. Floor. The data painted a picture that made several alien delegates shift uncomfortably in their seats. Interstellar trade has fallen by 63%, she announced. This is the largest economic collapse in recorded galactic history. Murmurs of concern rippled through the chamber. Some delegates had hoped the numbers would be better by now. The primary cause is the loss of human shipping networks. Human ships carried 47% of all galactic cargo before their departure. No other species has been able to replace this capacity. She changed the display to show shipping routes. Before the Exodus, the galaxy had been connected by a web of bright lines representing trade paths. Now, huge sections of space showed as dark voids with no commercial traffic at all. The Valian Consortium declared bankruptcy last month, Dr. Yunji continued. They were the galaxy's largest shipping company, but their ships depended on human-designed, faster-than-light drives. Without human maintenance and replacement parts, their entire fleet has become useless. In the Valian section, Ambassador Thelmara made a sound of distress. His people had built their entire economy around shipping. Goods between stars. Now they had nothing. The Corethian Mining Guild is facing similar problems, the economist went on. Their deep space mining operations used human atmospheric systems and life support technology. These systems are failing across their empire. Without repairs, they will lose access to 70% of their mining sites. Admiral Zilkrin of the Hegemony Defense Force stood up from his section. His massive form towered over the other delegates. Dr. Yunji, what about security? What about law and order? The economist's expression grew even more grim. Admiral, that situation is worse than the economic problems. She changed the display to show a galactic security map. Red zones marked areas where pirate activity had increased. There were far too many red zones. Pirate attacks have increased by 400%, she reported. The human peacekeeping fleet used to patrol border regions and respond quickly to threats. Without them, criminals operate freely in 17 major sectors. Admiral Zilkrin's tentacles writhed with frustration. My fleets cannot cover the same territory. Human ships were faster and could reach trouble spots in hours instead of days. 3 member worlds have declared independence in the past month, Dr. Yunji added. They claim the Council cannot provide basic protection or services. More worlds are considering similar actions. Ambassador Silthara of the Meridian Alliance rose to speak. Her bioluminescent patches flashed in patterns of distress. Doctor, what about infrastructure? Our trade stations, our communication networks? Many are failing, came the reply. Human engineers designed and maintained most of our major installations. The quantum communication relays have been completely dark for 2 years. Most species cannot even talk to their own colonies anymore. The Tia Turbo chamber fell into worried silence. Some delegates had known things were bad, but hearing all the problems listed together made the situation seem hopeless. In the Outer Rim territories, Scout Captain Vor On of the Rigelian Exploration Corps was discovering just how bad things had become. His ship Star Seeker drifted helplessly in space, its engines dead and life support failing. "Captain, we cannot find the navigation buoys," his navigator reported. "The entire Magellan Nebula passage is dark." Voron studied his charts with growing desperation. The nebula was impossible to navigate without the guidance beacons that showed safe paths through the dangerous gas clouds and energy storms. Humans had placed those beacons decades ago and maintained them faithfully. Now they were gone. "Sir, we are the 14th ship to attempt this passage," his communications officer announced. "The previous 13 are all missing and presumed lost." Voron made the hardest decision of his career. "Turn us around. We go back to base." "But sir, the colony on Rigel 7 is waiting for medical supplies. Without them—" "Without them, people will die," the captain interrupted. "But if we die trying to reach them, no one gets helped. The humans knew how to navigate this nebula safely. We do not." The Star Seeker limped back toward friendly space, leaving another colony cut off from the galaxy. Back in the council chamber, Dr. Yunji was presenting the final piece of devastating news. "The healthcare crisis is spreading," she announced. "Human medical technology treated diseases that our best doctors could not cure. Without access to human genetic therapies and antiviral programs, several plagues are returning." She showed images of overcrowded alien hospitals. "The Vegan death fever has reappeared in 12 systems. The Centauri bone rot is spreading through the mining colonies. We estimate 30 million beings will die in the next year from diseases that humans had eliminated." Senator Vorthak of the Orion Republic stood slowly. He was very old for his species, and the stress of recent years had aged him further. "My fellow representatives," he said, his voice carrying the weight of his years. "We must speak the truth that we have all been avoiding." The chamber grew quiet. Everyone knew what was coming. "We need them," Senator Vorthak continued. "We have always needed them. Humanity was not just another member species. They were the foundation that held our civilization together." Some delegates made sounds of protest, but Vorthak continued. "They built our communication networks. They designed our transportation systems. They maintained our space stations. They patrolled our borders. They cured our diseases. They solved problems that we could not solve ourselves." Chancellor Vextal tried to interrupt, but the old senator raised his hand. "We told ourselves that we were equals. We convinced ourselves that we could manage without them. We were wrong about everything." He looked around the chamber at all the worried faces. "The humans did not need us. We needed them. And we drove them away because we were too proud to admit it." The chamber erupted in arguments. Some delegates still insisted that the council had been right to reject human arrogance. Others began to admit that maybe they had made a mistake. But while they argued, the galaxy continued to fall apart around them. On the edge of known space, automated defense stations went dark one by one. These ancient guardians had protected the galaxy from outside threats for thousands of years, but they needed constant maintenance and regular updates to their programming. Only humans had understood how to repair them. Deep in space, something noticed that the guardian stations had gone silent. Something old and patient and very, very dangerous. It had waited for centuries for this moment. The Void Hunters began to stir. Chief Engineer Thelmoran ran through the corridors of New Carthage's main dome as emergency sirens screamed around him. Red warning lights flashed everywhere, and the air itself felt wrong. The atmospheric processors that kept 12 million Carthaginians alive were failing, and no one knew how to fix them. "Status report," he shouted to his team as he burst into the main engineering section. "Cascade failure in the primary quantum matrix," his assistant Colwen replied, her voice shaking with fear. "The backup systems are overloading. We have maybe 3 weeks before total atmospheric collapse." Thelmoran stared at the massive machines that had kept his people breathing for 40 years. The technology was beautiful and incredibly complex. Every surface was covered with symbols and controls that made perfect sense to human engineers. To Carthaginian eyes, they might as well have been ancient magic. Have we tried contacting the Human Technical Archives? He asked, desperately. Sir, there are no Human Technical Archives, Colwen reminded him. They took everything when they left. We have some basic maintenance manuals, but nothing about major repairs. The chief engineer felt panic rising in his chest. What about other species? Surely someone else understands atmospheric processing. We sent requests to every major species 3 days ago, another technician reported. The Zephyrians say their technology is completely different. The Meridians use biological systems. The Corethians told us their own processors are failing. 2. Thelmoran looked at the diagnostic displays. The complex readouts showed cascading system failures throughout the entire atmospheric grid. Without these machines, New Carthage would become a dead world in less than a month. Keep trying, he ordered, though he knew it was hopeless. Contact anyone who might have worked with human engineers. Someone has to know something. While New Carthage faced its atmospheric crisis, an even worse disaster was spreading through the galaxy's core worlds. Dr. Calwena, the most respected disease specialist in known space, studied the latest reports with growing horror. The Dominion Plague had returned. This ancient disease had terrorized the galaxy for millennia until human geneticists finally created a cure 50 years ago. The cure required constant updates as the plague evolved and changed. Human quantum computers had tracked every mutation and developed new treatments in real time. Now those computers were gone, and the plague was evolving again. Doctor, we have new cases in the Vega system, her assistant reported. 700 confirmed infections in the last day. Dr. Calwena examined the microscopic images of the plague organism. It looked different from the version they had cured decades ago. The virus had changed, adapted, become resistant to their old treatments. Have we tried running evolution models on our own computers? She asked. Yes, Doctor. Our systems are not powerful enough. The plague changes too quickly for us to track all the mutations. We need quantum processing power that only humans possessed. The doctor felt helpless. Her entire career had been built on fighting diseases, but this one was beyond her abilities. How many infected now? Over 10,000 across 12 systems. The number is doubling every 3 days. Dr. Calwena closed her eyes. At this rate, millions would die within months. The plague would spread to every inhabited world in the galaxy. All because the quantum computers that could stop it were now beyond the galactic rim with the humans who had built them. In the Council. Chambers on Nexus Prime, the crisis meetings never seemed to end. Chancellor Vextal had not left the building in weeks. His advisors brought him reports of new disasters every hour. The Kepler sector is completely cut off, Admiral Zilkrin announced. Pirates have taken control of all the major trade routes. My fleets cannot reach them. The Meridian colonies are requesting emergency food supplies, added Ambassador Silthara. Their agricultural systems have failed. They depend on nutrients that human bioengineers developed. Chancellor Vextal tried to process all the bad news. Every day brought new reports of systems failing, colonies going dark, and species facing extinction, all because they no longer had human technology to keep civilization running. What about our own scientists? He asked desperately. Surely our people can learn to maintain these systems. Admiral Zilkrin shook his massive head. Sir, we have tried. Human technology is beyond our understanding. It would take decades to train our people, and we do not have decades. The final blow came when the Void Hunters attacked. Deep space monitoring stations detected the invasion fleet first. Thousands of ancient machine ships emerged from the darkness between galaxies. They had waited for centuries for the galaxy's defenses to weaken. Now their time had come. Fleet Marshal Krenthanor commanded the galaxy's largest battle fleet, his. Ships rushed to meet the machine invasion, but he knew they were doomed before the fighting even began. Marshal, the automated defense grid is not responding, his communications officer reported. All the Guardian stations along the galactic rim are dark. Krenthanor stared at his tactical displays. The defense grid had protected the galaxy from outside threats for over 1,000 years. The ancient stations were incredibly powerful, but they required constant maintenance and regular software updates. Human engineers had been the only ones who understood how the old systems worked. What about our quantum scramblers? The Marshal asked. Can we jam their signals? Sir, the scramblers are human-designed. We do not know how to activate them. The Void Hunter fleet spread across space like a dark cloud. Their ships were massive and covered with weapons that could destroy planets. Behind them came processing vessels that would strip every world of useful materials. "All ships, prepare for combat," Krenthanor ordered, knowing his forces had no chance of victory. The battle was a massacre. Galactic ships exploded by the dozens. As the machine fleet advanced, the Void Hunters had been preparing for this invasion for centuries. They knew exactly how to defeat every species in the Council, except for humans. Humans had been the one species the machines feared. Now humans were gone. "All vessels, implement evacuation protocol," Fleet Marshal Krenthanor transmitted to his surviving ships. "The Outer Rim is lost. Fall back to the core worlds." The retreat became a rout as more galactic ships fell to the machine hunters. Ancient weapons that had not been seen for centuries tore through hulls and shields like they were made of paper. Back on Nexus Prime, Senator Vorthak addressed the emergency council session. His voice was calm, but his words carried the weight of absolute defeat. "My colleagues, we have a choice to make. We can continue to pretend that we can handle these crises alone, or we can admit the truth we have known all along." He looked around the chamber at the frightened faces of dozens of species. "We need humanity back. We have always needed them. They were never just another member species. They were the guardians who kept us safe, the engineers who kept our civilization running, the doctors who kept us healthy." Chancellor Vextal started to protest, but Vorthak continued. "The humans did not abandon us. We drove them away. We were too proud to accept them as equals, so we demanded they become our servants. When they refused, we convinced ourselves we were better off without them." He gestured to the reports of disasters covering every surface in the chamber. "Look around, you. This is what the galaxy looks like without human protection, without human technology, without human wisdom." Senator Vorthak's final words echoed through the chamber like a judgment. "Humanity walked away from our table because we offered them nothing but demands and insults. Now we must go to their table and beg them to save us from our own mistakes." The chamber fell silent. Outside, the galaxy continued to fall apart. The Void Hunters advanced toward the core worlds. The plagues spread from system to system. The infrastructure collapsed piece by piece, all because the Council had been too proud to treat humanity as equals. Now they would have to swallow that pride and hope it was not too late. President Minsu stood at the observation deck of the massive space habitat New Harmony. Through the transparent walls, he could see the fleet of Council ships waiting in the darkness. They had come begging for help, just as he had predicted. They would. 3.5 years had passed since humanity left the galaxy. 3.5 years of building new homes in the void between stars. The humans had not been idle during their exile. Admiral Su Jin joined him at the window. Her uniform bore new insignia that no Council species had ever seen. Humanity had changed during their time away from galactic civilization. "The Council delegation is requesting permission to come aboard," she reported. "Chancellor Vextal is leading the group personally." Minsu nodded. "Let them come, but they follow our security procedures. No weapons, no recording devices, no communication with their ships during the meeting." He turned to look at Dr. Wu Jin, who was studying reports from human intelligence scouts. The doctor had spent months analyzing samples that refugees had brought from Council space. His findings were not encouraging. "How bad is the plague situation?" Minsu asked. "Worse than they probably realize," Dr. Wu Jin replied. "The Dominion plague has mutated into 17 different strains. Their medical systems are completely overwhelmed. Without intervention, we estimate 50 million deaths in the next 6 months." Admiral Su Jin added her own intelligence. "The Void Hunter invasion is proceeding faster than expected. They have taken control of 43 star systems. The Council's military forces are retreating on all fronts." Minsu walked to his desk and reviewed the files prepared for the negotiation. Humanity's terms had been carefully crafted over many months. The Council would not like what they heard. An hour later, Chancellor Vextal entered the conference room with 6 other Council representatives. The Zephyrian leader looked much older than when the humans had last seen him. His silver skin was now dull gray, and his 4 arms moved with obvious weariness. Ambassador He Jin sat across from them at the negotiating table. She had replaced Nari as humanity's chief diplomat, and her approach was much more direct than her predecessors had been. "Chancellor Vextal," she said with polite formality, "the United Earth Coalition acknowledges your request for assistance. Please state your needs." Vextal shifted uncomfortably in his chair. 3 years ago, he had given humanity an ultimatum. Now he was here asking for their help. "Ambassador Haijin, the galaxy faces multiple crises that threaten all civilized life. We need human assistance to restore basic infrastructure, combat the plague outbreaks, and defend against the Void Hunter invasion." Haijin made notes on her datapad. "I see. And what does the Council offer in exchange for this assistance?" "We are prepared to restore all of humanity's previous rights and privileges, full membership in the Council, unrestricted trade access, and recognition of your current colonial holdings." The human ambassador looked up from her notes. "Chancellor, I think you misunderstand our current situation. Humanity no longer desires membership in the Galactic Council." Vextal's 4 arms twitched with surprise. "But surely you want to return to galactic civilization." President Minsu entered the conference room at that moment. His presence immediately changed the atmosphere. The council delegates had expected to negotiate with diplomats and bureaucrats. They had not expected to face the leader of humanity himself. "The United Earth Coalition has evolved during our time in exile," Minsu said as he took his seat. "We are no longer the eager junior partners who sought your approval. We have become something else entirely." He gestured to Admiral Sujin, who activated a holographic display. The images showed massive space habitats, powerful warships, and technological marvels that the Council had never seen. "We have built a new civilization beyond your borders," the President continued. "We have colonies that are larger and more advanced than anything in Council space. We have ships that are faster and stronger than your best military vessels. We have solved problems that your scientists considered impossible." Vextal stared at the displays. "If you are so successful, why did you agree to this meeting?" Minsu's expression grew serious. "Because we are not monsters, Chancellor. We do not want to watch billions of innocent beings die from problems that we can solve. But any assistance we provide will be on our terms, not yours." Ambassador Haijin took over the presentation. "The United Earth Coalition offers the following arrangement. We will provide emergency assistance to stop the plague outbreaks and help defend against the Void Hunter invasion. We will also maintain critical infrastructure to prevent immediate civilizational collapse." She paused to let the council delegates feel relieved. Then she continued. "In exchange, humanity demands complete technological independence. No council, oversight of our research, no sharing requirements for our innovations, no restrictions on our expansion or development." Vextal started to object, but Haijin held up her hand. "Furthermore, we require a complete restructuring of galactic governance. The current council system has proven inadequate for managing interstellar civilization. Future governance will be a partnership between the council and humanity, with both sides having equal authority." "That is impossible," Senator Threlmock of the Orion Republic protested. "Humanity is only one species among dozens. You cannot have equal power with all of us combined." General Dong-hyun entered the room at that moment. His uniform bore the insignia of humanity's new Frontier Defense Force, the military branch that had not existed when humans left council space. "Senator, you seem to think this is still a negotiation between equals," the general said calmly. "Let me clarify the current situation." He activated another set of displays. These showed the positions of human military fleets throughout the galaxy. "The Void Hunters are advancing on 17 different fronts. Your military forces have been unable to stop them in any engagement. Our fleets have already destroyed 3 Void Hunter battle groups and are moving to intercept the main invasion force." The council delegates looked at the tactical displays with growing amazement. Human ships were engaging the machine invaders in battles that council forces had been unable to even attempt. "How is this possible?" Admiral Zilkrin asked. "Your military was smaller than ours when you left." General Dong-hyun smiled without humor. "Admiral, you greatly underestimated both our capabilities and our preparations. We knew this day would come. We have been ready for it." President Minsu stood and walked to the window overlooking the council fleet. "Your ships look impressive, but half of them cannot operate without human-made components. Your weapons systems use human-designed targeting computers. Your shields require human-developed power cores. He turned back to face the delegation. "You are not here to negotiate with equals, Chancellor. You are here to surrender to your superiors." The words hung in the air like a physical weight. The council delegates realized that everything had changed. Humanity was no longer asking to join galactic civilization. They were offering to save it. After 6 hours of detailed negotiations, the Treaty of New Harmony was signed. The agreement established humanity not as members of the Galactic Council, but as its protectors and partners. Captain So-hyun commanded the patrol ship Vigilant Dawn as it took position at the edge of Void Hunter space. Her orders were simple. Prevent any machine ships from advancing further into the galaxy. Captain, we are detecting massive Void Hunter formations moving toward the Kepler sector, her tactical officer reported. So-hyun studied the enemy positions. The machines had been retreating ever since human fleets arrived. They had not expected to face opposition that could match their technology. "Signal the fleet," she ordered. "All ships prepare for engagement. Time to show these machines why they should have stayed in the dark." The human fleet moved forward to meet the ancient enemy. Behind them, the galaxy began the long process of rebuilding under new management. The Council had learned its lesson. Some knowledge could only be gained through suffering. Some wisdom could only be earned through loss. Humanity had walked away from the table, but they had returned as something greater than what they had been before. The galaxy would be safer under human protection, but it would never again mistake cooperation for weakness or diplomacy for dependence. The age of human guardianship had begun.